everybody, and welcome to another episode of Politic Diversion. I'm your host, Ali. My partner in crime is with me. Hello, Amir. How are you doing?
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm doing very good, Ali. How are you yourself? How's it going?
Oh, a little bit. Well, we haven't had an episode in like 2 weeks. I've been traveling. You've been busy. Well, we were kind of hoping to have an episode every week, but so far we haven't been able to deliver. But hopefully we can get back on the horse. And what do we have for today? We were gonna start with the news. You were gonna talk about GameStop.
Oh, yeah. One of the very major news in the past weeks, I think, was the whole GameStop story. It's very significant, I think, to me, that the roles were inversed in this whole story. Do you want to give a summary of what happened, or should I do it?
Well, it's your thing. Before you do anything, I have to tell people about shorts. So this involves Wall Street. This involves shorting stocks, right? I'll let you tell the story, but basically, people have to understand what short means. Short is to bet against. There is a movie by that name, The Big Short, and that's a very good movie about the financial crisis in 2008. Basically, let's say that you go and buy a couple of shares of Apple, right? Basically, what you're doing is betting. You're hoping that the value of the Apple shares is going to go up, and you are going to make money like that, right? That's what normal people do. That's what most of the financial markets do. You go and buy some shares, hoping and expecting that the value of the stock that you buy, the company whose stock you bought, is going to go up. Sometimes some people do the opposite, right? They're expecting that the company will go bankrupt or the value of that stock is going to go down. And if it goes down, with shorting the stock, they're going to make money. So you can take it from here.
Yeah, exactly. So the way it works, usually the pro investors, they look at the charts. If they think that a stock is going up, they would buy it. If they think it's going to go down, they would short it, or they would sell it if they have bought any before. So in the GameStop story, GameStop is I think, computer games franchise. They, as far as I know, they sell computer games in the form of physical discs. Now they are kind of obsolete nowadays, as many people just download their games over the internet, and you don't have to manage discs, and you always have them with you. So GameStop is not a very successful business right now, but a few gamers on Reddit, which is this very big forum on the internet, they decided that, hey, let's just, for the fun of it, let's pump this stock. And now pumping means you all flock into it and you all buy it. So the price goes higher and higher. Now, that's what happened with GameStop. It's not a particularly worthy company. It's not a worthy stock. But a lot of people just rushed into it and bought the stock, which caused it to go up in a bubble. Now, the pro traders, unaware of this collusion of some gamers on Reddit, they were looking at the charts and they were thinking, well, basically GameStop doesn't have any business. It's not a growing business. It's probably a shrinking business. So their stock price should go down. So they started shorting it, and the price kept going higher and higher. And when you're sure that something... Sorry?
Amir, I think you got the order reversed.
The order reversed?
I think a hedge fund shorted the stock to up to 140%, and then the Reditters were like, okay, we're gonna show them the middle finger, and then they started buying. Well, I think you got it.
I don't think
the way I read the story, it was the shorting up to 140% happened first.
Yeah, but how do you
You know
know?
what I mean?
How do you know if traders are shorting something? You don't have access to their
Oh,
accounts.
it's
You don't
public
have.
record. That it's
Uh,
public record. So
yeah, maybe.
no, it is public record. You can't.
Hmm. Okay, but then yeah,
So that's the
they
way
were.
I read it. I don't know if you might be right. Anyway,
Yeah,
the story doesn't really change which way it happened. The fact remains that some Redditors, some like normal dudes, just like you and me, were like, okay, we're gonna be saving this company. And they used Reddit, they used Discord, they used any kind of messaging app that they had to kind of get the message out. And they did it through Robinhood. Do you want to talk about Robinhood?
Yeah, Robinhood is this platform for traders, but it's for common traders, like a lot of institutional traders and pro traders. They usually don't use Robinhood. Robinhood usually caters to small time traders or hobby traders like ourselves. And yeah, people just went on Robinhood and started pumping the stock. And the pro traders, seeing that it's going higher and higher, they thought, well, this is the end. It's gotta come down. It's gotta collapse. So they kept shorting it more and more. And overall, I think, as far as I know, they lost, the pro traders, the Wall Street traders. They lost about $5 billion shorting this stock. So they hoped that it would come down, but it didn't come down. So the money that they were betting against this stock by shorting, their money just kept evaporating, and they lost about $5 billion. So the shady part starts here as Robinhood and as institutional traders and trading platforms. They decided that, hey, we're not going to take this. We want to short this, and these small time traders, they keep pumping it. So what we are going to do is we are going to cut public access to this trading index. So Robinhood just removed Gamestop from its trading indexes, and yeah, people couldn't access it anymore. And this is very shady. This is a big time market manipulation. Uh, they just didn't like the way the stock was going, and they cut the public access to it. Now, there was a lot of debate around this, and a lot of people are saying, hey, Wall Street is doing this all the time. They are pumping things and they are dumping things and making money out of it. And this time, small time traders were doing this against Wall Street. So they got really angry and they just cut the access to it, which is really a scandal.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. Uh, well, Robinhood is supposed to be, a platform for normal people, non-rich people, to trade with no commission, right? And as it happened, they were in the pocket of the big money as well. So yes, I guess you and I are both closely watching this situation and hoping for a good income. But basically, like you said, it was a lesson for Wall Street. The little guys can unite, and through the force of numbers, they can, they can sometimes poke the big guy. The whole idea of shorting a company up to 140%, that's ridiculous. It didn't work this time, but well, let's wait and see what's going to happen next. Do you have any other news? Anything else interesting happen in your personal life, in the world?
Well, no, not much going on in my personal life. I'm really overwhelmed with work. But another important news, I think, is the second impeachment of the former president Donald Trump. I was watching the Trevor Noah show the other day, and his opening line was, "It's the annual impeachment of Donald Trump." And I think if he kept on going for the second term, it would have really turned into an annual event. They would have just impeached him every year. Yeah, but it's a very interesting show going on.
It's just interesting that there's been in the entire history of the United States, there has been 4 impeachments. Half of them was Donald Trump,
Yeah.
and like 2/3 of them are in our lifetime. So Clinton and Donald Trump, those are the two that most people remember. The other one is Andrew Johnson is in the 1860s. Nobody remembers that. But basically, Donald Trump has been impeached twice. It is unlikely that he will be convicted in the Senate.
Oh, why do you think so?
For conviction, 2/3 of the Senate must vote for a conviction. So that's 67. That's 67 senators. Let's say that all of the Democrats, now 50, vote for that. They still need 17 Republicans to vote for a conviction. And that is unlikely. As it is today, it is unlikely to happen.
Yeah, but a lot of Republicans also signaled that they are probably going to vote against Donald Trump because, it's a really hard thing to argue against. I mean,
who's going to vote?
Sorry?
Who's going to vote to convict?
Well, nobody says it for sure, but also Mitch McConnell has signaled that he may vote against Donald Trump in an act to redeem the reputation of the GOP, of the great old party or the Republican Party.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, Mitch, in the beginning, he kind of signaled, but then he kind of changed his tone. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm not really taking my breath that he will be convicted in the Senate. Because we talked about it in the previous episodes, he is still very popular. He is the Republican kingmaker, and he's been threatening the Republicans with the thoughts of breaking off from the Republican Party and starting a new party, what he calls the Patriot Party, the Patriotic Party, or whatever name he might give it. And that would be catastrophic for the Republican Party, because if that happens, they might lose a lot of seats in the Senate. They might lose a lot of their power in the Congress, and also in local elections. As it is today, something around 25% of the U.S. population still believes Trump and his claims. They did a poll, around 18% of the people who were asked believed some of the QAnon conspiracy theories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's 18%. That's a lot of people. So I'm not sure that he's going to be convicted, but we're going to know in like a few days.
Yeah, it's still highly unlikely, but I think it's not impossible. Let's say that.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but again, 17 Republicans, I doubt. In the House, only 10 Republicans broke off from the party line. So, like 220, only 10 Republicans. Liz Cheney, the daughter of Dick Cheney, voted. Yeah. And we're living in very strange times. We're cheering Liz Cheney for doing something that is reasonably, modestly, I don't know what to call it, human. It's not a brave act to convict Donald Trump for insurrection of violence, but that's the world we live in. So these are very partisan times in the U.S., and that's one of the challenges of the United States to go ahead. The fact that people, and that's partly because of the media landscape. I mean, there are a lot of different reasons, but partly it's because of the media landscape. The fact that you have these cable news networks, CNN, MSNBC on the left, and then Fox News and OAN and Newsmax on the right. It's been very interesting for me to follow the development of right-wing news networks like OAN, One America Network, and Newsmax, who are challenging Fox News. Fox News was for a long, long time the sole voice on the Republican, on the conservative side. Now they found themselves on very shaky grounds. They have challengers, people who are, people who are challenging them from the right, not from the left. From the left would be somebody like CNN. So it was interesting. Since the time Biden took office, all of these networks have lost a lot of viewership. Like the rating has dropped by like 46%. All of them. CNN. You know why? Because nothing is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is really happening. And why should you tune into CNN or Fox News to watch it when nothing is happening? So, and this is to put it into a context. The whole point of 24-hour news networks was when we had the 9/11 happening. And after that, CNN basically found its voice. CNN and Fox News, also Fox, goes back to 1999. 1990s, I don't know the exact date. They sort of came to life. They sort of found their way into the American lifestyle with the advent of 9/11, 2001, when the United States was attacked, and then they invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, and something was going on all the time. Everything was a breaking news. Nowadays, it's like 20 years later, what they have to feed on is to make enemies out of who? Al-Qaeda is no longer there. There's no other external threat. So it's, for Fox viewers, it's the socialist Democrats. For CNN viewers, it's some QAnon conspiracy theorist who wants to bomb there, or wants to. You get what I'm saying? So
exactly, yeah.
That's partly due to this culture, to this crazy media culture that they have in the United States, and it's sort of unique. You can't find anything like it anywhere else in the world.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting for me also that all of these networks started with very outrageous news coverage. For example, the OAN or Newsmax or Fox, they all hinted that the voting machines, the Dominion machines, or the other brand, I don't remember the name, they were manipulated and to steal the election. And the very interesting thing to me was that the Dominion voting systems, they started suing these networks. They said, hey, you are just broadcasting unfounded claims on the cable news. And it's very damaging to our business because we are in the business of selling or renting voting machines. And they basically sued them for millions of dollars. In one case, they sued Rudy Giuliani, Trump's personal attorney, for about $1 billion, I guess, which is really funny. If you
$1.3 billion,
yeah.
Well, it actually started like about 2 months ago. The company Dominion started sending out cease and desist letter. That's the first step in a legal suit. A cease and desist letter is sort of like, listen, you're violating rights, so it basically means to stop. And when Newsmax got that was like about 1.5 months ago. That was right around the election time. They stopped claiming that Dominion was, the Dominion was responsible in sort of election fraud or whatever they were claiming. Before that, the claims were all over Newsmax and OAN. And just like last week, there was a clip from OAN that went, or Newsmax was it, that went crazy, that went viral on the social media. The pillow guy. Have you heard him? This guy is named Mike Lindell. He was on one of these two networks. I don't know which one it was. And then he started spewing those crazy conspiracy theories about Dominion and voting machines. And the host stops him. He says, you can't do that. And then he walks out. The host has to just walk out. And then he says, can we get out of here? That was very interesting. So yes, if they don't respond to anything else, they will respond to legal threats. And we have to see. I don't believe that the company is going to get anywhere near $1.3 billion that they're claiming in damages. But, let's wait and see what happens. It would be very interesting.
Yeah, basically, I think they went for a big amount of money to be able to more easily silence people like Rudy Giuliani, because he knows that his claims are unfounded, and he knows the extent of the damage he could experience is $1.3 billion. I mean, he may in the end settle the case for much, much less. But yeah, they feel the danger is $1.3 billion. So it would be faster acting if they are suing them for that much money. And I think the very interesting thing is that the tables are turned on these guys. I mean, Trump and people like Trump have always used their immense wealth and suing powers to silence their critics or silence their rivals. For example, I was watching this video the other day on YouTube. There was this economic analyst. Don't remember his name exactly, but he, as a part of his job, he reviewed the Taj Mahal complex that Trump was building, the Taj Mahal casino, and he honestly gave his opinion that I think Trump is borrowing a lot of money, and there is no much, and he has to pay a lot in income to his employees. And honestly, I don't think Taj Mahal is going to make a lot of money. And Trump was furious at the time. He contacted this economic analyst and says, you have to apologize. You have to retrieve your analysis because it's going to be damaging my business. And he didn't. They asked his employer to retrieve and then fire this economic analyst. And that didn't happen. And then they went to court for a big lawsuit. And Trump obviously, of course, lost in the end because he was just using this as a tool to silence a valid economic analysis of his Taj Mahal casino. But it's really funny that, if you sue people to silence them, they will also sue you rightfully, actually. When you are just spreading baseless claims about things that didn't happen, about your sci-fi world.
Yeah, actually, there's a name for that. They're called slap suits. Slap with two P, SLAPP suits. And if you want to know more about them, go to YouTube, search for John Oliver's. He did an entire episode on this kind of suit because he was actually sued by a coal company. Just like that. So the whole point is the threat of the finances. You know, if you're being sued, you have to go get lawyers and defend yourself, and it will cost you a lot of money. So the guy, somebody like Donald Trump, will sue you, even if they think that they're not going to win at the time, just to stick it to you, just to make you pay. And in some countries like England, there is a law that if you sue and lose, you have to pay the other guy's lawyer's fee. Not in the US, at least not everywhere. Some states have different laws. It's very complicated.
And I think the other thing about the slap suits was that I think in other parts of the world, including the UK, you have to have a basic evidence of what you're claiming. But in the US, you can just sue people without actually any hard evidence in the beginning. Like the litigation may go on and they may say that, hey, you don't have any evidence and we will throw out the case. But by then, the other party had to hire their lawyers and they had to spend a lot of money. So that's actually a very effective way to silence your critics.
Yeah. Well, if you're interested, watch the John Oliver episode. It's very interesting. Anyway, in the COVID news, a few days ago, I heard that in Switzerland, the number of plastic surgeries has drastically spiked.
Wow.
So there are more people. I guess. It's related to COVID. Why is it that more and more people are looking to have plastic surgeries? Okay, I'll give you a hint. Zoom and Skype. So yeah, there are more people who are spending their career, their professional life via Zoom and Skype and other, online platforms. And as it is online, and as is like under webcam, some of them are not really happy with the way their faces look, and they're opting to get plastic surgery to look more sort of beautiful. Botox, for example, is the number of Botox in Switzerland has spiked by like 30%.
That's actually, that's a little, it's strange because people were showing their faces to their place of work before. It's not like you didn't show your face before when you didn't use Zoom. And I think it's also the other way around, because with Zoom you can use a lot of filters to smooth out a lot of what's wrong with somebody's face.
Like a cat filter, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, if you look really, really bad, you can use the cat filter. It's definitely cheaper than plastic surgery.
Yeah, well, the thing about the difference between Zoom Live, or its approximations, whatever it is that we use, versus meeting in person is that, imagine this woman is like tall and, well, for like 40 years she's been living her life, her professional life like that. In a real life meeting, maybe her big nose doesn't come under the limelight, doesn't get focused on. But now with Zoom, it is focused. It is under the limelight. It is the focus of the attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In other COVID-related news, the United States is now vaccinating 1.5 million people per day. It is Biden promised that he would vaccinate 100 million people in the first 100 days of his presidency, and he seems to be on the way to tackle that goal, even more than that. A new vaccine is on its way, is likely to be approved in the US, Johnson & Johnson. That's difference is that it's a one-shot vaccine. Okay, what else is going on with the COVID?
Oh, since we last had an episode, I think it's important to note that there is also another major vaccine on the market, which is a Sputnik V. I'm not sure, is this a Sputnik V or is it a Sputnik 5? I think it's V, right?
Yeah, it could be 5. I don't know.
I'm not sure either. There is a Sputnik V on the market, which is a Russian vaccine. And from the looks of it, it looks like overall this is the best vaccine available throughout the world, because it has an efficacy rate of over 90%. I think it's 93, 94%. So it's in the same range.
91.6.
Yeah, it's in the ballpark of the efficacy of Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine, but it doesn't need the extreme shipping conditions that Moderna and Pfizer vaccines require. So I think overall, some scientists have said, overall, if you're considering all of the factors, Sputnik V is the best vaccine you can get right now in the world. And hopefully a lot of countries are buying the Sputnik V. And if it's going at a good rate, I think we may be COVID-free in maybe about a year.
Yeah. Well, of course, there was a study published in Lancet, and it was the results of the phase 3. We have to wait and see. From what I've read, it's promising, and if I had the choice of, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and Sputnik, I would get vaccinated. No question. Any of them would be fine. The Indian vaccine is like 70% effective, so I wouldn't go for that. The Chinese vaccine, I don't know how it is. But the real question nowadays with Pfizer, Moderna, all of them actually, is the new strains of the vaccine. the Brazilian strain, the English strain, the South African strain. The question is, how effective are these vaccines against these new strains? And the two companies, Moderna and Pfizer, are reportedly working on a booster to work against these new strains. And the hope is that more and more people are going to get vaccinated real quickly.
I hope that the world can be COVID free in about a year. I mean, that's, I think, optimistic, but it's not not very much out of touch with reality.
Yeah, since Biden took the office, the number of the number of new COVID cases in the U.S. has dropped by like 56%, which is amazing. So they're now, the numbers are still very high. Nobody denies that. So now they're back to like November numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they keep vaccinating people as they are, the numbers are bound to go back to drop significantly as they go. So yeah.
Have you ever contemplated how the COVID conditions would have been if Trump wasn't president? I mean, he has a lot of he affects the U.S. very much directly, but he also has a lot of influence around the world. I mean, if U.S. Took the pandemic seriously in the beginning, it might have been not so much widespread around the world.
Yeah, it is true. Well, Obama left a playbook for such a scenario, and they had a person. So, it's sort of like the nuclear thing. Back in the 60s, when they were starting, when the USSR and the United States were negotiating for their nuclear deal, they placed agents, sort of inspectors in each other's country. So the United States had some inspectors in Russia on the nuclear facilities, and vice versa. Something similar was going on with China. So Obama, the Obama administrations had a deal with with China, and they had a inspector in China in case something like this happened to watch over anything that the Chinese were doing. The Trump administration completely obliterated, deleted, kind of wiped out that position. And when it happened, the Trump administration was 2 steps behind in every step of the game. For example, when they prohibited travel from China, they should have done it like 2 months before. COVID basically went to the United States from Europe. So at the time, it was around March and April when they, when they put a travel ban on China. They should have done it, and basically all over the world. And on testing, they were very, very far behind, partly because the CDC, that's the health organization in the United States. They were trying to monetize, to make money from their own test. At the time, the WHO, the World Health Organization, had a test, but they couldn't make money off of that. So they were, lagging their foot behind on implementing, on making the test, and distributing it everywhere in the United States. There is a very good example. The United States and South Korea had their first confirmed case on the same date. And now, if you go and compare United States and South Korea, even per capita, the sheer numbers is a different story. But go and watch the trends in what was necessary to combat COVID. You will see that the Trump administration in the United States in general did very, very poorly. Part of it was the messaging. On the day that he was announcing the CDC was recommending masks, he said, "I'm not going to do it." So I'm not going to be wearing any masks. And even before that, with somebody like Dr. Fauci, who everybody trusted, he said that masks aren't effective. And like 9 months later, he said, well, we were lying because we were afraid that people were going to go and buy masks and the first responders wouldn't have access to them. But of course, these are all of the things wrong with the United States and their approach to the COVID. So yes, when I was in Germany last year around this time, I was living in Germany. I don't understand German, so most of the news I got was from American sources, and well, they were not entirely accurate. Many governments around the world look to CDC for guidance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are like an authority on the matter. And I think it's pretty ironic how when Trump just ignores these measures and ignores these committees and ignores these protocols that's been put in place, then we have a once in 100 years pandemic, which then ruins everything. I mean, it's really, really bad luck for President Trump. If this pandemic didn't come around, nobody would have understood the extent of the destructive measures that he took, and he might have uh, been elected for a second term easily. I think if there wasn't this pandemic.
That's my suspicion. That's my suspicion as well. Basically, Biden didn't really do anything. Biden, they called him. He was in the bunker. You know, he was in the basement of his house all of the time, and he didn't have any concrete policy. His policy was just going back to normalcy, whatever the
Yeah.
hell it meant. Almost at the end, the most concrete thing Biden said was the $2,000 checks in Georgia, and well, even they're now caving on that. So yeah, yeah. You were right. If COVID didn't happen, Trump could have won, in my estimation, very easily.
Mm. And I didn't actually know about the inspectors that the countries exchanged and to have accountability basically. But I have read about the protocols for a pandemic that's been put in place by President George Bush, and that was really interesting for me because we see Bush as another lunatic guy who did a lot of things wrong in the world. But compared to Trump, I think he's a pretty normal guy. And it was really surprising for me that when coming back from a vacation, he actually read a book about a pandemic, about the extent of the dangers and the extent of the risks that a pandemic would pose. And when he came back from his vacation to the White House, he uh, assigned a few people to write protocols and to design protocols to combat and to be able to handle a pandemic like this when it occurs. And Trump also ignored those protocols and dismantled everything. And yeah, I love the ironic nature of this. I think for once, the illusionary force of karma did its thing right.
The problem with Trump is that he cares about nothing and nobody except himself. So yeah, it's called public service. The president is a public servant, but he didn't really serve the public in any way. Whatever he did was to boost his own ego. You know, the travel ban, for example, not the COVID travel ban, the Muslim travel ban.
Yeah.
It's funny, kind of funny that we have to distinguish them. They had to do three different iterations of that, three different versions of it. Uh, just think of how much money has been spent to consult lawyers, to pay the government employees to prepare the text for a Muslim ban. And just think that if their priority was different, what else could have been done with all of that money? Listen, just look at the State Department. For 4 years, many positions in the State Department in the US were left empty
Mhm.
because they couldn't find anybody to fill those positions. Why? Because many people were reticent, unwilling to work for Trump administration to begin with, and sometimes they were just oblivious. They didn't really care about. Listen, for example, North Korea on the Korea matter. To have a negotiations, you need a staff who are, experts to their bones about nuclear policy, about the history of diplomacy, about history of the North Korea, about everything that has been going on in that region for at least the past 50 years. And then you send those people to negotiate with their counterparts. So this is the start of the negotiation. These are not even we're not even getting to the minister or the State Department, the State Secretary. This is the lowest level of negotiation to begin with. And from this point, the negotiations, if we're going towards any meaningful peace deals with North Korea, for example, and the same goes for Iran, you need like at least 6 months of intensive negotiations and work to get the framework of something negotiable, something meaningful. Trump was like, okay, I'm going to be meeting Kim Jong-un and we're going to have a deal. You know what I mean? That was his approach to everything. That was his understanding. So to me, that is no surprise.
Yeah, and not just a deal, the greatest deal that could have ever been achieved. I'm just going to do it in one swift action.
Yeah. And it was a failure. It was a total failure. It gave legitimacy to North Korea. I mean, it did something. The fact that we didn't have a nuclear massacre in South Korea, or not even nuclear. The thing about South Korea and North Korea is that if a war breaks down, even if they don't use any nuclear weapons, just with artillery, North Korea could kill 500,000 South Koreans. And that's a disaster. And the same goes the other way. If North Korea is famished, China could be dealing with several million refugees on its borders, So it is a very delicate situation, and you don't want to have an mentally unfit person in the White House. And at least with Biden, or if we had Hillary Clinton, these people don't break the glass. You know what I mean? You give a laptop, you give a phone to a competent person, even if they don't know how to use it. They're not gonna be breaking it. They're not gonna be flushing it off the toilet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you give it to a lunatic, you might get it back with a broken LCD. So that's basically how I see Trump. He wasn't mentally fit to begin with.
Yeah, but the skill that he was a master at was populism. I think he can rightly be dubbed as the greatest populist of all time, because he effectively hypnotized half of the population of one of the most developed and one of the most liberal countries in the world, namely the US. I mean, you don't have a lack of media freedom in the US. It's not like in lots of other oppressive regimes, like in North Korea, you don't have free newspaper, you don't have free television. A lot of people might not even have television. And in those countries, or in Venezuela has very tight control over its people. So it's not hard to be a populist in Venezuela. But I mean, it's, I think, a great skill to be able to be this bad at policy, be this bad at executive action. And also...
Well, I kind of disagree with you on several points.
Okay.
Number one, both the Democrats and the Republicans have very terrible track records with the American people. So if you go and poll politicians, their popularity, it's abysmal. Something like 22% on average of the Congress people have, positive popularity. Their positive popularity is around 22%. Somebody like AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, might have a higher one. But generally speaking, all politicians are hated. So part of Trump's spiel was that he was an outsider. Even in his second term, he was running as an outsider. People voted for him. A lot of people voted for him because they believed that he was going to fix the system because he was an outsider. So that's number one. Number two, a lot of people really didn't know him.
Yeah.
A lot of people did not know that he had run 6 casinos into bankruptcy. Or if they did, they were sort of oblivious. Number three, the point that I want to make, which is the kind of overarching theme of what I want to say, is that democracy is not an ideal governing system. Plato mocked democracy. No, well, not mock is maybe the wrong word, but they were critical of democracy. The Greek philosophers, around 6,000 years ago, they were like, democracy is ridiculous, and it is, as it is exercised today. They were, they were obviously they weren't in favor of autocracy or plutocracy or oligarchy or any of this. They were hoping for a better system, and a better system comes with a more informed electorate, a better informed and a better engaged, because obviously today, not even in the United States, people are really engaged in politics. They don't care. Every 3.5 years or so, these politicians come to them with a lot of promises, and well, sometimes they deliver, most of the time they don't, and they don't vote. The biggest electorate in the United States are people who don't vote. Around a chunk of bigger than the half of the population who can vote, they don't vote. So that's more than 150 million people who don't vote on a regular basis. So yeah, it doesn't really surprise me that we had somebody like Trump elected to the most important office maybe in the world. It doesn't really surprise me because it reflects the will of the American people, and they're fed by the media, they're fed by corporations, and we don't really have time to get into this right now, but the election laws in the U.S. in and of itself is a very interesting subject for discussion. We can talk about PACs, political action committees, and super PACs. These are committees that you can form to promote any political message that you want, and basically there is no regulations on them. A millionaire can or a billionaire can donate the X amount of money, no matter what amount of money, to a super PAC. And they can spend it on advertisements, they can spend it on anything that they want, and this is how they form public opinion. So yeah, I get your point, but for the 3 reasons that I enumerated, I'm not really surprised.
Yeah, that's right. And another thing that really surprises me about the Republican Party is that they are openly two-faced. I mean, there are video clips from Senators Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham, and they are talking in the year 2016 before the election, and they tried everything to hurt Trump. They said that if we elect this man, if we elect Donald Trump for the president of the United States, it's going to be the end of the Republican Party. He is going to destroy the Republican Party. And they were actually quite right. Donald Trump did change the Republican Party entirely. I mean, and brought a lot of its shady business to the surface. But the interesting thing is that Rubio and Graham, for example, these two senators, are really in the pocket of Trump nowadays. They are contradicting what they said in 2016 entirely. And it's really, really easy to see how these senators, mostly Republican, I mean, there are people like this on the Democratic part, But these Republicans are openly two-faced. They are openly uh, uh, contradicting themselves year after year, and that really surprises me. Like their electorate, how does the Republican supporters, the people who vote for the Republican candidates, how do they not see this? If they are following things, if they are watching things all the time, how are they not recognizing that this is happening, that they are being lied to year after year?
Maybe they don't care.
I mean, yeah, that's
You know
that's
what I
a
mean?
that's a possibility. Yeah, maybe they have patriotic feelings and they don't care what some people what somebody says. They just want the things that they know to be right to be enacted by whoever that is going to enact them.
Yeah. To me, it's explicable in the sense that we touched on before the media landscape, the
Hmm.
CNN and the Fox, and more so in the fact that the political identity of Republicans and Democrats, when it comes to finances, it isn't really different. Their differences come to light when we talk about guns and
Hmm.
abortion and culture issues in general. So you have somebody like Trump, and to those people who elected him, he delivered immensely. These people are very interested in what they believe is the immediate danger.
Hmm.
And many people who watch Fox News and OAN and Newsmax are concerned with their way of life and the fact that many Mexicans, quote unquote, are going to be taking over their lives.
Hmm.
So they needed Trump to stop it, and he did. Just yesterday, I was listening to a podcast about immigration, and Biden on the first day of his presidency signed 17 different executive orders, and many people think that it's going back to the way Obama left it, but actually it's not. The podcast I was listening to explained that many minute laws have been changed over the past 4 years, and a lot of asylum seekers are now being turned around because of the new laws that the Trump administration implemented.
Yeah, and one other contributing factor that I'd like to point out, I just got reminded of it. In this day and age, we have access to a lot of data, but the algorithms of the applications and the websites that we are using, they are designed in a way not to let us access the data that we need, but to let us access the data that we want. And they actually are profiting off of that. If you log into Facebook and you see 10 headlines, all of which agree with you and you like to read them, you would spend more time on Facebook and they would have more time to show you ads and generate revenue. And I think the this uh, this word echo chamber has been very relevant, I think, in the past few years, in past maybe 4 to 8 years, that these social media platforms are turning into echo chambers, meaning that if you go into a social media, whatever your uh, dispositions, whatever your beliefs and ideas are, they are going to echo it back to you. They are going to direct you to people who think the same thing. They are going to connect you to people, to communities that agree with you. And in this way, I mean, there are a lot of data. There are a lot of articles, videos on the internet that when you show them to people, to a lot of people, it may very well change their minds. But because they are stuck in these echo chambers, they never get to see these videos and articles.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the business model of Facebook, YouTube, basically anybody, Twitter also. So they don't care. They care about their bottom line. They care about making more money. They care about selling more advertisements, and that's basically why we don't get any challenging,
Mhm.
you know, um, content when we're spending some time on them. So yeah,
So, do you have any recommendations for this week?
no, do you?
Yeah, I'm watching the fourth season of Young Sheldon, and I really like this series. I would really like to recommend it to people. If you're a fan of Big Bang Theory, I like Big Bang Theory. It was a very great series. I didn't watch it till the end. I watched it till until the I think fifth or the sixth season. I lost interest. It was really repetitive after that. It was mundane to me a little bit. But if you liked Big Bang Theory, you're gonna love Young Sheldon because Young Sheldon is the spin-off series off of Big Bang Theory and explores the life of young Sheldon Cooper when he was about, I think, 10, 12 years old, living in Texas with his parents. And yeah, if you like the stories that Sheldon was telling from his childhood in Big Bang Theory, you're gonna love the depiction that they have made in Young Sheldon. It's the fourth season is ongoing. I think today, or no, 2 days ago, we got a new episode, and yeah, highly recommend it. Have you watched it?
Yeah, a couple of episodes, not all of them. I actually love Sheldon. So the real show, Big Bang Theory, I loved it, and I've seen, I guess, all of the episodes. When I was
Hmm.
learning English,
Hmm.
I remember a friend of mine gave me like three seasons, and at that time only three seasons were out, and I just fell in love with it. Like you said, the quality of the show drops as they continue. So they're in total 12 seasons. Good. It was the most watched sitcom in the world at some point.
Hmm.
It had like 80 million viewers
Hmm.
on its premiere.
So how
And
you?
Young Sheldon, yeah,
Yeah, go on.
yeah, that's not a bad show, but I'm kind of like personally, I'm walking away from English series. I try not to. Yeah, I mean English speaking series. I try not to watch anymore because I don't know. Series are kind of addictive.
Yeah, yeah, they are sure addictive. And yeah, I don't watch
Yeah.
a lot of new series right now, but I've been watching Young Sheldon from when it started. So that's one of the series I'm stuck with. But
So good. Yeah.
yeah, so if you're
Go
into
watch Young
series,
Sheldon.
and I think Big Bang Theory, it's a bit heavy for someone who has started watching series because they have a lot of scientific jargon in the series. But Young Sheldon is much lighter because there are the most of the actors, most of the characters actually in the movie are not scientists. Only Sheldon is the scientist in the series. But in Big Bang Theory, you effectively have four main characters as scientists, and then their girlfriends are also scientists mostly. And yeah, it's a little bit jargon heavy, but Young Sheldon is easier to follow for beginning English learners or the people who want to improve their English by watching series.
Yeah, if you say so. I don't know. Yeah, definitely. Well, I wouldn't just recommend. I would not recommend The Big Bang Theory for
Hmm.
its vocabulary. Actually, that could be a good point for if you're an intermediate learner. You can, and there are the words are actually very good if to improve your writing skills.
Hmm.
So yeah, it could be a little bit challenging. I sometimes have to go and check words. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah, but I love the
Uh,
the way they play with words, and I love the formal way of speaking that goes on in Big Bang Theory. For example, I remember this scene that Sheldon, I think he was against something that Leonard wanted to do, and Leonard did it, and he didn't, and he failed actually. And Sheldon said, "I'm not gonna say I told you so, but I'm gonna say I informed you thusly."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was really
yeah.
a very interesting play on words. Like, uh, I informed you thusly is a very formal way of saying I told you so. And yeah, that's very funny to
It
me
is a
sometimes.
sitcom, and many of the jokes are by design verbal.
Hmm.
They
Yeah,
play on the language.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, Friends was like that. Friends had a lot of
Hmm.
verbal humor,
Hmm.
and for
Exactly.
English learning, that's a very good thing. Friends is highly recommended.
Yeah, yeah.
Big Bang Theory, the spin-off, the prequel, Young Sheldon. Yeah. Actually, I actually watch a different series. I'm gonna talk about it next time. It's called Your Honor. That's starring Bryan Cranston. So yeah, for next time I will introduce you to Your Honor.
Great.
Yeah, 9 episodes is out. I think it's only one season. I don't know, but for now, that's the series that I'm waiting for to download. Maybe in 2-3 days. So yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Let's call it a wrap. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Politically Virgin. We recap the news every week that we have time to get together and talk. Hopefully, we can do more and more of them as we get a little bit more of free time. We provide a free transcript for everybody who's interested, so you can listen and read the transcript on YouTube. And hopefully this podcast can help you better improve your English or better your English. Don't forget to follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook with the handle Olive Podcast. Our website is olivepodcast.com. I want to thank my co-host Amir.
Yeah, thank you
for joining me today and discussing the news.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Hopefully we can do this again very soon.
Yeah, of course. Thanks everyone for listening to us. Sorry if it was like a rant sometimes, but yeah, we are both political enthusiasts, and sometimes we go off talking about things that are seemingly random, but I think they all connect in some grand scheme.
Yeah, if they keep listening to us for like 100 episodes, they will be like us. So
yeah, stick with
maybe
us.
Less annoying than us, but
yeah. Thanks everyone, and hopefully see you for the next episode. Thank you, Ali.
See you soon.
Yeah, see ya. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.